It's 3 o'clock on a Friday. You made it. Welcome aboard the Postgame Show alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. I've been told later next week that we're splitting the band up for a day. Have you heard about this? You know,
I have.
Did you have anything to do with this? Did I do something wrong?
I think you can thank your pal Bill Gunner for taking Tuesday off.
Well, all right. Let's not use the word pal and Bill
Using it a
Gunter
little loosely.
in the same sentence. Yeah, no, Elijah's going to. When's the last time you've done a morning show as a professional in radio?
December.
Okay, so you have done one here then.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've done a few here. Not as frequently. Usually Tyler fills in.
Yeah.
We're mixing it up a bit next week.
Yeah, no, I did 4 years of a morning show, and I can't say I shan't do that again because it may not be my call. I do have a boss.
Correct.
However,
Prefer not to.
given the chance, I'll be right here and doing things when the sun is shining.
I like to be sleeping during that time.
Yeah, I'm asleep.
I'm sound asleep.
Even the 9 o'clock show feels early these days, you know?
Especially.
I mean, because then you got to
That's
get
around
up.
the time I'm getting up.
Yeah, I got to get up at I get up. I'm up by 7 these days. Used to be up earlier when we had a whole bunch of people running around. Now not quite as much. So I can be a little, but I don't like sleeping in. Like sleeping in to me on a weekend, maybe 8. Maybe 8:15.
Oh, I can get
tops.
to like 9:30.
Yeah, I can't. I'm ready to get up and do stuff. I just don't like sitting there. My wife doesn't care. She'll stay until 10. She's like, what? I got nothing to do. I was like, all right. Anyway, welcome aboard. Lots to get to. Jay and Elijah with you here on this Friday. Coach Stuart Lake going to join us in the 5 o'clock hour. Gamecocks in Florida tonight. I realize that the baseball season for a lot of Carolina fans is already done in their minds, but it is a big deal when Florida comes to town. LSU will be here in a couple of weeks, so you got that pulmonary thing going then, too. Well, you know, Carolina, basically, if you have been paying any kind of attention, you know, it feels like South Carolina is going to need to go 8-1, 7-2, to have any kind of hope of just hanging around the playoff discussion. And again, I know a lot of you just rolled your eyes. I get it. I'm just trying to be factual. I'm not here to put lipstick on pigs. I'm not that guy. And if you want to, ask me right now, Jay, do you believe the Gamecocks are going to the NCAA baseball tournament without winning the Southeastern Conference tournament? No, I do not. No,
you got to win in Hoover.
So, but hey, you got games, you got, nice weather, and you got some honoring of big-time teams from yesteryear. So we'll be discussing those things and more with Stuart coming up in just a little bit. Clark Brooks, SC StatCat. Elijah booked Clark for us coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. We've seen a lot this week, whether it's been top 10 quarterback lists for those who are moving in, or going into the next season. We've seen several mock drafts. It's that season. We all love football. And there's no off season, really. There's just talking season, as Steve Spurrier likes to say. And we'll talk and discuss, but we'll get – I just told Terry, this is like I'm not going to step back. I'm gonna speak with Clark while he's on with us. But I just have this feeling that you and Clark will just go like, this is like right in your wheelhouse, man, of just analyzing and breaking down and who can do what and who does what with more efficiency and all that kind of stuff. But I do think it'll be fascinating for people to get into that part of how quarterbacks are evaluated because there's so much more of that these days. I don't know how long ago we stopped with just the eye test.
Whenever teams started flopping on their quarterback evaluations.
Yeah.
I think we kind of
I
had
don't
a little
know.
more of a thirst for context. And
I don't know if it goes back to I don't know. Because Jeff George was a good quarterback. He was a good distributor of the football and he was big and, he could extend the play. He wasn't a runner by any means. He probably ran a 5-something 40, but but he was also just a massive tool.
You can't find those on the stat sheet.
There's not that in the analytics part, but the eye test he passed. But and I don't know that there is any analytics tool for trying to portray if somebody is a jerk or not. But no, seriously, I think it's fascinating. But so many people right now are, with Cade Klubnik, Lenora Sellers. I mean, these might be, two of the top 10 players taken in the draft next year. And, I mean, Carolina has had top 10 picks, and Clemson has had top 10 picks. I mean, Clemson, of course, of late has had a couple of quarterbacks taken really highly. Carolina hasn't. Carolina's never had a quarterback taken highly.
Mm-mm.
So, I mean, what kind of history might be made inside the state of South Carolina a year from now when it comes to the draft? Now, you got to live up to it.
I mean, can you imagine how full that press box is going to be at Willie B with NFL scouts there, too?
Yeah.
If Cade Klubnik and Lenora Sellers are still projected to be top 10 picks in the NFL draft on the last week of the regular season.
I'm assuming that at that point I don't know, man. What else we got that day? Iron Bowl.
There's a good chance Auburn and Alabama both have like 3 losses each, and it's 3+ losses each.
Carolina,
and it's
Clemson.
Irrelevant.
I don't know. Do you wear? I can't remember. I should know this, but I don't. Where this year's Florida State game is? Not that I think it's going to.
This year, it is going to be in Florida.
Okay. And then, wait, you weren't saying that. You mean in Gainesville, right?
Gainesville, yes.
Okay,
yeah. Well, I mean, I'd be correct either way.
Because the other day, we had the question of where is the University of Northern Kentucky, and you responded with it's in the northern part of the state of Kentucky, which is correct. Then we found out the town, but I've already forgotten it.
I have too. I couldn't tell you what it is.
So I was just making sure, because that would have been funny.
But
that was good.
Yes.
But you meant Gainesville.
Unintentionally, I did.
Yeah, I thought by the look.
That'll do.
I thought by the look on your face that you did mean Gainesville. But anyway, just thinking ahead real quick, like what is Carolina Clemson going to compete with for the 3:30 slot? And it will depend upon who, what your record is and things like that too. Absolutely. Would you rather it be 3:30 or I know fans would rather have a 7:30.
Yes. I like the day-long anticipation and the build-up, and I like watching games early in the day.
Help me out.
I get to the stadium 3.5, 4 hours before game time, and if I'm doing the pregame show with Tyler or Terry, then I'm usually there about 6 hours before the game starts.
Yeah.
But I like having the day of being able to consume the rest of the football.
This past year's Carolina win in Death Valley was at noon, right?
Yep, it was noon. Yeah. I got up for the sun rose.
I'm not going to lie, man. I'm not going to. I don't mind. I don't mind noon as much as you want me to.
There's nothing wrong with noon.
Especially road game noon.
Road game noon is good. Yeah.
So here, I would like for the purposes of national relevance to force into existence a Carolina Clemson 3:30 kick this coming November.
It would be fantastic.
Yeah, because that tells me, okay, there you go.
Whatever gets it on national television.
It'll be on national television.
Yeah.
It'll be on.
I'm talking like
some
ABC.
Disney, but broadcast television 3:30. That would be
ABC specifically.
Yeah.
With it being the game.
Texas and Texas A&M is that day, right?
They usually play that at night. I think.
I don't know.
Well, at least when I was a kid, it was played at night.
Yeah.
Back when they actually played that game regularly, and it was at night.
Trying to think of SEC home. The reason I'm saying these SEC home games for that 3:30 because I know Carolina Clemson's in Columbia, so I know that will be
confirmed
a Southeastern Conference broadcast partner situation. Although I guess technically the ACC has ESPN too. Anyway,
which means if it was in Clemson, it could be on the CW.
I think they're moving over to the Pac-12 minus 10.
That lucrative TV deal.
In the CW. Yeah. Pac-12 minus 10. RIP, Pac-12. RIP.
Followed by Criminal Minds reruns.
Or Family Feud. Or Judge Judy.
Judge Judy's actually going to be on the call for a few of those games this year. Washington State, Oregon State. Judge Judy doing sideline.
I'm here for that. How about Steve Harvey?
Steve Harvey doing play-by-play?
Just staring, doing the Steve Harvey stare when something dumb happens. We were talking about him earlier this morning, actually. Elijah and I are working, y'all. I don't know if we're going to pull it off, but Elijah and I, it's for some things in the summer when things, mildly slow down for us. But y'all, not like a full-on Family Feud game, like with the 5 people across like the table answering those questions and getting like not that part. Nothing wrong with that part. But Elijah and I are trying to come up with something like the final Family Feud where they try to go win 20 grand or whatever. And you get like the 5 questions in like 20 seconds. That we're working on that Gamecock themed.
Yes. So we'd have to do some surveying.
So some of you out there, soon enough, once we kind of roll this through the committee, then we may be putting out the call to you, our loyal listeners, and you Gamecock fans especially, to help us out with this. Because there's a thing there.
There's something here.
There's a thing there. But in all seriousness, in about an hour, looking forward to talking to Clark Brooks. We'll get into a few more football things too. I read this morning. You and I discussed this briefly, and I know. We don't usually get all gossipy, whatever, with the Belichick girlfriend thing and all that kind of stuff. But I told Elijah, I had not until today on The Athletic seen the article, and with what happened with Hard Knocks. Now, y'all all know what Hard Knocks is, and of course, Hard Knocks is an NFL thing, but HBO was looking for something a little bit different before they start NFL Hard Knocks. And they thought, hey, here's something kind of cool. One of the greatest coaches in the history of the NFL is now at a very popular college. Why don't we follow his spring? Yeah.
And there was mutual interest.
And the University of North Carolina was going to be paid like a facilities fee, plus they were going to get like $200,000, just like thanks. And, of course, just the exposure. And how do you measure the exposure? There are formulas that are used, but you get it. That could be worth millions. And they're paying you to be publicized.
Especially in a conference where you're crying about how much you're getting in your TV deal.
Yeah. And apparently this thing was like 95% done, and Belichick wanted it to happen until he didn't. And the word is that the girlfriend, Jordan Hudson.
Don't call me Tim. Great pitcher.
Or Jennifer.
Or Jennifer.
The word is she, and now they didn't say this, but if you read between the lines, it sounded like she wanted some form of like executive producer status. She wanted something like where she was going to be heavily involved in what it is that the Hard Knocks crew shot, edited, and aired. And they were like, we win awards for this.
We're good at this. Yeah, we don't need help.
We've been doing this a while. And you were what exactly? And so it got to like the 11th hour and the 50th minute. And again, Belichick was on board. And then the feeling is she said to him, hey, they're not going to let me. And then he nixed it. And if I'm the folks in Chapel Hill, I am hacked off.
Absolutely. That's money.
And it's money. And it's selling
at your doorstep.
Yeah, and it's a situation where he doesn't seem to understand what kind of recruiting boon that can be. I don't think he understands Cruton yet.
Nope.
Like he knows what it is, but I don't know that he gets it. And clearly, Miss Hudson doesn't get it. But again, they were going to pay. You were going to get $250,000 in cash, plus the exposure. Man, I'd have been hacked off. But we're going to talk about something else going on that is indirectly related to that. John's got a question. John, sit tight, buddy. You will be coming up right on the other side talking some Gamecock baseball. We got a lot to get to. It's Friday. It's the Postgame Show. 20 minutes after 3 o'clock here on a Friday afternoon. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. Got a lot to get to on today's program. A little bit later on, giving you a chance to win not just tickets to see the Fireflies game on Sunday, but it's May the 4th. I think they got a little Star Wars theme going on.
It's Star Wars Day, baby.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that in just a bit. John has been patient through the commercial break. He wants to talk a little baseball, so he'll, no pun intended, bat lead off today, or maybe pun intended. How you doing, John?
Jay, Elijah, what's going on?
Doing well, John.
I guess a few questions as a whole. First, when you think about where baseball was under Mark Kingston, it was had a similar energy to where football was with Will Muschamp, where basketball was with Frank Martin at the end of his run. I guess maybe I missed this in the press conference where they introduced Maneri. If I did, you could remind me. What I guess just confusing with the Maneri hire is with the age and why wouldn't you go the route like you did with Beamer and Paris to bring in a guy that could bring back some energy to the program? B, for Jay and Elijah, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your confidence in Maneri being able to right the ship? And C, if he can't right the ship, how long is his leash? Also, don't forget to give Gamecock men's tennis some love as they're hosting a regional. I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah, they're hosting. I think it's like the 30th consecutive year for women. Caitlin Anderson, by the way, I think the 5th time for women's golf, named Conference Coach of the Year. Way to go, Caitlin. So a lot going on in some of the secondary sports, no doubt. You did throw a lot at us, John. Look, let me answer. I'm going to kind of take them in different order. In terms of the confidence in Paul Maneri, I've got to put some conditions on that. I don't have any doubt in Paul Maneri's ability to coach baseball, but Carolina allowed this program to be passed by financially by everybody in the conference, basically, save Missouri. Or if not, to a point you made, and look, you can argue, well, hey, Mississippi State just fired their coach, so what about them? It took 2 out of 3 from Carolina. I guess they're better than Carolina this year by a little bit. Again, my confidence in him to coach baseball is high. 1 to 10, 9? I don't know. Do I give anybody a 10 these days? Even Vitello or Dave Van Horn? I don't know. I always want to. I'm like those tough professors I had after the 300 level. Nobody gets 100. If you get a 97, 98, hey, just consider that.
That's you round up.
Yeah, you did good, kid. But I don't know. Again, we talked with John Whittle yesterday, and you can clearly tell that John has concerns about the teaching and development. So does that need to change? That's not up to me. Jeremiah Donati's going to have a very interesting conversation with Paul Maneri, and it'll be different than the conversation Jeremiah had in his first year here at Carolina than he had with Lamont Paris, I believe. In terms of how long any kind of leash is, I mean, how long can you wait for this particular specific program to come back to a point of relevance? That it's not there at all to begin with is already very troubling.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of the hire, I don't know if it all went down the way it could have. I know for certain there was interest in this program from coaches that have no ties to this program.
That are currently in charge of some nationally prevalent, relevant programs.
And Ray Tanner felt that those weren't the people he wanted. I can't do anything about that. You'll have to ask Ray that. And there may be a host of reasons for them. They may be valid. They may be not. That may be an eye of the beholder kind of opinion. I don't know. I do know because I talk to people that know. Mm-hmm. But I know there was interest. it almost feels like the Maneri hire was an emergency hire, like in case of emergency, break glass, and there's Paul. Probably, I'm being a little hyperbolic to make a point. And in terms of the energy that you mentioned, John, I know what you mean when you compare it to Muschamp. I wouldn't compare Mark directly to Will. I mean, if Will didn't get fired after going to, say, a 7-5 bowl game, which is kind of what happened last year. Maybe even Carolina was like an 8-4. If you want to equate it to football last year. I mean, they were a 2 seed. They just slipped late. They were poised to be a national seed around this time, and then May was bad to them. Mm-hmm. And saw a 1 seed slip away, and they went and were a 2 seed up in Raleigh. And by the time they got to Raleigh, I think the wheels were broken.
They were already off.
Yeah. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But I think those guys knew something was up, and that because when you didn't host, and some people said, well, hey, it's just as well. Well, I mean, should it have gone from a 2 seed nearly hosting to this in one offseason? I don't think so.
And to address one of those two, in terms of the confidence that this can be turned around, if I had to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, because it's not being turned around this year, I think we can already kind of eat the L on this season. I think I put it at about a 5.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I don't think I'm completely. I don't want to completely rule out that they get a really good portal haul. They nail the evaluation on a lot of players. Uh-huh. And they're able to have a successful season this year. I don't think that's completely out of the realm of possibility. Uh-huh. But after what we've seen this year, I think a lot of the questions that people might have had about the hire going in are completely valid.
Yeah.
They've kind of been justified, I mean,
and I want to say, and I don't mean to interrupt you. I'll toss it back to you. When I said, again, I look at it in 2 ways about confidence. Confidence in an ability to coach the sport. I got the full confidence. Yes. Confidence in turning it around. I'm probably with you. I based on what I'm seeing, that number goes down. Yeah, 5, 6. I don't, and that's I don't know.
And even if you had a year like you did last year, let's just say you carbon copied last year and made it this year.
Yeah,
I think I'd still be at a 7 because the track record. Paul can coach. He's got a history of doing it, but can he do it here in a brand new world of college baseball? Has now become a more significant question just because of how much of a disaster it's been at times. And I think that becomes fair to say. Can this coaching staff, I don't even just single Paul out too, can the staff? Right. Because this is also a staff thing.
No doubt.
This isn't just the head coach. Everybody has to be in lockstep. And there has been some similarities. Some of the issues you've had this year have been pretty constant. Right? Hitting with runners in scoring position. When it comes to pitching, finding the strike zone.
Yeah, walks,
it's not just a one thing that's killing you. It's the fact that everything is hurting you. You are at a talent deficit. If you're able to change the talent, then maybe with a roster overhaul, it can be fixed in a year. But the staff has to be all on the same page to be able to get everybody to achieve that goal. I don't know if that is happening right now.
And I think a point, I forget, we were talking about it with Carolina basketball the other day, actually, and the ability to raise the amount of money, raise the level in terms of what you're going to be able to share with your roster and things like that. But, you made the point, Elijah, everybody else is too. Carolina's not doing it in a vacuum. Mm-hmm. And trust me, if there's a feeling that Carolina, and I'm not saying people are trying to keep Carolina down when I say what I'm going to say, but here comes South Carolina. Hey, they just put an extra blank number, whatever it is, into baseball. We better think about that. Everybody else, so I don't see a scenario where South Carolina just vaults right to the top of the SEC in 2026. There's a lot of good clubs in between you. Good question. And not a lot of great answers, unfortunately. We'll see. All right, lots more to do. Friday postgame show. Just talking some Carolina baseball, and again, it's been we hadn't had a season like this in a while. I know there's been seasons where Carolina missed the playoffs, but they were more competitive than this team is, and sometimes things just don't go your way, and that's not an excuse. Again,
That's sports.
I hold on to this program should expect to host in the first round of the tournament every year. That should be your minimum level of expectation.
Or
as
at
I
least
say.
a goal, like the base goal.
Well, you won't always hit it, but it's not wrong to expect it. Again, yes, then comes, tell me why you didn't. Because that's hard to do. I get it. You're one of, but really being one of 16 in today's world, it's harder. I get it. But you can't, in my opinion, let go of that. But you got to be one of the, as we say, one of the 48 that get in otherwise.
That's
Another
when a breach is
64.
inexcusable.
Yeah, and let me just
with this program.
I'll say again what I mean by that. In baseball, there's just 1 seeds, 2 seeds, 3 seeds, and 4 seeds based on how they do regional play. But equate 4 seeds with basketball, 13 through 16 seeds.
The auto bids.
Yeah, and South Carolina would not be one of those. South Carolina wouldn't be a 4 seed.
The only exception in the SEC where someone would be a 4 seed is if Missouri goes 0-for in conference play but wins the SEC tournament.
That's fair.
They would be a 4 seed.
Yeah, that's fair. And even then, I wonder, would they be a 3 just by virtue of like what their RPI is? Like maybe. But you're probably right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right. But yes. So anyway, but that's not happening this year. Again, unless Carolina goes and wins the SEC tournament.
Then they'd be a solid 3.
And if you're wondering, this year, again, the baseball tournament is the exact same format as the basketball tournament.
Greg Sankey just told the told whoever's in charge of like formatting like tournaments and everything. He's like, what, just copy and paste the basketball one. This is too confusing.
Yeah, that's it's the exact same format.
Control C here, and then let's move to this blank doc, and then Control V, and then.
Meanwhile, up the road in Chapel Hill and farther up the road in East Lansing, we got some stories developing, and I just want to get into this. We mentioned a few minutes ago, if you didn't hear, there's a story on The Athletic today which details why the University of North Carolina football program ultimately wasn't the first ever college team featured on Hard Knocks. It was basically a done deal. But the word is that Jordan Hudson, Bill Belichick's now somewhat infamous girlfriend, depending on your point of view, wanted a larger role in all of it. And it doesn't necessarily say, and then when she didn't get it, it went away. But again, all you got to do is read between the lines. Because Belichick was on board with it. He wanted it.
That's how the conversation started.
They even in the article, they put out a statement from him about what NFL films meant to him as, in his younger days and all that kind of stuff. And how HBO has been so closely associated with NFL films and all that kind. I mean, they had it. They were ready to go, y'all. But she wanted some form of production status. What exactly remains to be seen, and we may never know. But when that wasn't going to be part of the final deal, then Belichick said, well, then we're not doing it. And it just went away. And so I bring that up again, not to just retell the same story from 30 minutes ago. But if you haven't heard, and the reason I brought up East Lansing, Michigan State University has just fired their athletics director, Tom Izzo, and someone else I didn't see. I didn't pay that much attention.
Magic Johnson.
It's not Magic. Yeah, and it's not Mateen Cleaves, and it's not
Kenneth Walker.
I don't know. Anyway, none of those guys.
Derek Mason.
No.
I should text him.
No. But Coach Izzo is like co-interim AD. It's just he just has to keep the seat warm. But there is word that North Carolina's Bubba Cunningham could be up for that job. I'm sure there are others that the brass at Michigan State will vet before making a final decision. But if I am Bubba Cunningham, I am running up whatever interstate with a big old Sparty flag.
Right? I might even paint myself green.
Right now. And one of those cool helmets.
Dressed in Spartan attire.
And I'm saying, I want this job.
I'll do anything.
Get me the heck out of this Dodge. And so, and they, I don't know what other level of current AD they'll be looking at. I mean, this is a big school in the Big Ten. But you and I were talking about it this morning. Michigan State is not Michigan. And what I mean by that is Michigan expects to win national championships in a lot of the sports they field. I don't think Michigan State really does. What Michigan State seems to want, by and large, is to be competitive with Michigan and obviously Ohio State and Penn State, but not to be embarrassed, right?
Mm-hmm. Go to decent bowl games every year.
We want to go. Yeah, in football, we want to go to bowls. And
standard men's basketball is a little higher,
and they'd like to crack. Coach D'Antonio a few years ago, he had some 10-win seasons, and they were pretty good. And so they would expect at that point, all right, well then we could be Indiana, and they can. So they're going to probably say, well, hey, if Indiana can get into the college football playoff, we can do that, and they wouldn't be wrong.
They've been to one playoff.
So, and they have a proud hockey program, and they do, but they want to be, they don't want to be an afterthought because they know what Michigan is, and they know what Ohio State is, and they know what Penn State is. So they have a good understanding of who they are.
The goal is relevance.
North Carolina, on the other hand, does expect also, maybe with the exception of football, to win national championships. And North Carolina, as most of you know, is almost always at or near the top of the athletic department rankings. They and Stanford and Texas, I think, are the only schools that have still won the award. Stanford's won the bulk of them. But they've won a few in Chapel Hill, and they've won a couple in Austin. And they do expect that. Now, again, football's different. But, again, look at Bubba Cunningham. Remember, Bubba Cunningham did not, let me repeat, y'all. Bubba Cunningham did not want to hire Bill Belichick. He thought it was a bad idea. But the brass knew that Belichick was available and basically began to instruct Bubba Cunningham to get it done. So he had to do what his bosses told him to do. Again, Bubba Cunningham, once it was done, was like, all right, well, let's orchestrate this Hard Knocks thing.
This isn't the first time, too, that members of that board have stepped in behind his back and have done something, like inquiring what it would take to leave the ACC.
Right.
That was not a Bubba Cunningham directive.
Right. They did that without his knowledge.
That was a rogue member of the board going out and seeing what it would cost them, how they could do it.
And here again, with the Hard Knocks thing, there's $250,000. I know $250,000 in cash is not going to change anyone's life, but it is $250,000. But again, it's the millions in publicity that you would have received for being on HBO's Hard Knocks.
It helps as a recruiting tool, and that $250,000 could get you a pretty good left tackle, I'm sure.
Yeah, why not? Seriously, it's something.
Yeah.
It's not a lot for a budget of nearly $200 million. I realize it's not a lot, but
when you have to start paying all your players,
it's still $250,000. It's still something.
There are plenty of athletic departments that would love $250,000 to help with additional funding of rosters.
So, Bubba, if you're listening, run.
Get out of there.
Forrest Gump that thing, man.
And don't ever look back.
You just start running.
And if you dare look back, you will be turned into a pillar of salt. Right. This will get biblical really fast. Get out of here.
I don't know. Again, I don't know who else. The only article, the Detroit Free Press was very stingy. I was not able to get into their article today.
You telling me you didn't want to have to fight the paywall to get a subscription to the Detroit Free Press?
I'm not the hacker I used to be.
But you're not into paying for quality Detroit Tigers coverage all summer?
No. Sorry. Or Red Wings off season. How'd the Wings do this year?
They were better.
Okay. Because they used to be
on the playoffs. They're still knocking on the door.
They used to be the standard bearer for a while there. They were the standard bearer of the National Hockey League.
Yeah, that ship sunk a while back, and they've been pretty bad for a while.
Steve Yzerman ain't walking through that door.
No, Brett Hull ain't walking through that door either, or Dominic Hasek. But they do have some nice young pieces in place.
That's good.
They'll be good in the future. They're building. They're building.
Good. Yeah, no, I'm not paying for that. Sorry. But good luck.
Your loss, I guess.
But Bubba, seriously, man. It's been a good run. Get out.
Say this because we care.
That's right. You're listening to the Postgame Show. 11 minutes in front of 4 o'clock here on a Friday. Welcome back into the Postgame Show. A little breaking Carolina basketball news. Can I toss it to Elijah Campbell for more on this while he's
sure can.
readying himself?
Well, I'm pulling up the press release.
Yeah, well, I also have a story here about what not to do after you win the Powerball.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this lesson because I'm going to win the Powerball one day. So I'm going to.
And this isn't just like, this dude, I'm just going to say this dude didn't win like, $100.
He won at least $100. And that would technically be
and then some. But anyway, what you got?
Yes, this came in right as we went to break. Press release just sent. Miles Studi granted extra year of eligibility, so he is set to return for the 2025-2026 season. He started the first 14 games this year before being sidelined. This is from the press release. Before being sidelined for the rest of the year due to lower leg deep vein thrombosis or blood clot. Studi has been medically cleared to resume all basketball activities, and the team will begin its offseason program the first week of June.
That's good, right?
That's good news.
It's good.
He's a really good corner three-point shooter. He's an awesome defender, underrated defender.
Yep.
I think he is a really good on-ball defender, the perfect type of defensive player that fits in with what Lamont Paris wants to do defensively. I think that's a good addition, and I'm more so just happy for him that he can be able to have a full season of college basketball. His health has been like that. That can be scary. Deep vein thrombosis, blood clots can be pretty scary. They caught it, in time. He was able to sit out the rest of the year. He's now cleared to play again. So I'm happy he's A, cleared to play, B, getting a chance to play one last full season of college basketball and be able to help this team out as much as possible.
Yesterday, on this note, Carolina basketball put out a release about 6 transfers into the program, and that's in the order of the way they did it. Michi Johnson, Krisis Ndoko, Kobe Knox, Elijah Strong, Mike Shariamps, and Norden Kapic. And now Miles Studi is coming back, and we know that Cam Scott technically, while in the portal, would not count as a transfer back into the program because he never officially left the program. Are they done? If you put out the release,
I think so.
Are they done?
I believe they are.
So
because you have those 6, you have Studi 7, Cam Scott 8, Jordan Butler's coming back, so that's 9, plus your freshman class between Ellis, Walker, Polk.
3 of those guys, right? 3 or 4?
Simeon, and then the guy they just signed that was a teammate of Eli Ellis. So that's
4. 5.
Yeah.
And then, again, the sliver of a possibility that Colin doesn't like what happens and doesn't go to the NBA. But again, he's going to the NBA.
I feel pretty confident about that. I've seen.
Well, again, I was way less confident. I mean, you gave it 3%. I gave it like 0.4%.
Yeah.
So
both of which very slim chances. But if I can find, I want to see. I was looking to see if they updated the NBA mock draft. I know the post.
Well, while you look that up, let me do this, okay? Now, usually I do these at the end of the show, but we might be busier at the end of today's show. There's a 50-year-old man from Georgetown, Kentucky, named James Farthing, and James just here in the last few days won the Powerball. $167.3 million. Okay, so didn't win the second chance prize, Elijah Campbell. Didn't he? Listen, even winning $1 million, big deal. This man won $167 million. He was down in Florida, near St. Pete Beach. Been there.
This is going to be
near the Trade Winds Resort. Don't know, but I don't know. Apparently got into a scuffle while at the Trade Winds with his girlfriend and some others. And why was he arrested for this? Felony battery, wait for it, on a law enforcement officer. Yes. He paid $11,500 in bond. That's good. He had the cash, but remained in custody as of this morning due to a Kentucky felony warrant for parole violation. My man was on parole.
This is multiple levels of stupid.
By the way, his girlfriend's first name is Jacqueline. That's a nice name.
Lovely, yeah.
Her last name? Fight Master.
No way. No. That is not her assigned government name. That has to be changed. It has to be like a changed last name.
This is from the Palm Beach Post, Gannett News, part of the USA Network. USA Today Network, I should say. Not USA Network, USA Today News Network. So my man James, I think he gets to keep his cash. Bro, you're on parole. You just won the bleeping Powerball.
You can buy a lot of cigarettes in
Why
prison
are you
with that.
punching and kicking a cop?
CMB is number 9 prospect according to ESPN. The NBA.
Hour 2 coming up.
Good Lord.
Jacqueline Fightmaster. 4 o'clock on a Friday. Welcome back into the Postgame Show. Jay and Elijah with you. We're still in here kind of chuckling over our lottery winner. If you just tuned in, I usually do these kind of kickers a little later in the show, but today we fit it in early. We had a guy from Kentucky named James Farthing.
Oh, man.
Won the Powerball last week, $167.3 million. But he went down to a resort in St. Pete Beach, and I guess they'd maybe had a couple, and then a couple more. Got into a little skirmish with some folk, and as the law enforcement officers arrived to settle the scene, he decided to punch and kick one of them. And then he paid his bond in the jail down there in St. Pete.
So one problem taken care of.
Yeah, and then they realized, oh, wait a minute. You're on parole for something you did in Kentucky. We can't let you out of jail right yet. We got to wait for the folks in Kentucky to sign off on this. And, again, his girlfriend's last name is Fightmaster, Jacqueline Fightmaster. She was also arrested.
Who could have seen this coming? Jacqueline Fightmaster gets arrested for violence.
Right.
Color me stunned.
He was accused of punching another guest in the face during an argument last weekend. Or actually, this was on, what's today? This was on Tuesday. A Pinellas County Sheriff's deputy was attempting to break up the fight when the affidavit said Farthing kicked the deputy. Then he attempted to flee. But the body cam video said Farthing showed Farthing winding up his right leg before kicking the deputy. Meanwhile, Ms. Fightmaster was, quote, actively engaged in argument involving other guests and her boyfriend and attempting to fight other people.
Well, they don't call her Peacemaster.
The police report says, quote, I love this, she appeared very intoxicated and was yelling, screaming, and making incoherent statements.
Wonder what made him think that.
If you're wondering why he was on parole.
That was my next question.
Yeah. He'd been convicted in Kentucky of theft, receiving stolen property, escape, drug trafficking, promoting contraband, tampering with physical evidence, and engaging in an organized criminal syndicate. And then here's the thing. He was only on parole until August 27th.
You just had to not fight anybody
3 more months,
until August.
And you just won $167 million. What are you doing?
At some point, the term fumbling the bag doesn't do it justice. You have done something worse than fumble it.
$167 million.
This is like the life equivalent of Deshaun Jackson dropping the ball before going into the end zone.
This is a Will Ferrell movie. Right? This is, what are we doing here? Oh, my gosh. Good luck, James Farthing and Jacqueline Fightmaster. I am pulling for the both of you.
At this point, I'm pulling for them to make this even worse.
Yeah, well, I mean,
there's got to be a way. There's got to be some way to make this worse.
Well, can I don't know. Can Powerball, like, I guess if you win, right? Like, you bought the ticket, you won. I don't think there's any rules that say if you violate parole, crossing state lines, and then kick a cop while your drunk girlfriend is screaming at everybody that you can't get your money.
It's one of these. It's one of those things where you see somebody else win the Powerball, and you're like, why does it have to be that guy? Why does that guy have to be the one to win this?
And
why?
Again, Elijah, $167 million. Dude, at that point, go buy a ranch and just you know what? Go buy some third-rate distillery in Kentucky and just get lit. Hire your own cop.
And make it legal in that make it a rule in that building that you are allowed to fight people. Right. Anyone that fights you is the one who gets
first rule of Fight Club. Yeah. I'm fighting you.
I'm fighting you, and I can't get in trouble doing it. With $167 million, buddy, you make your own rules. Man. On your own property.
I'm gonna do my best to keep up with this one.
You are the Georgetown, Kentucky correspondent.
And, yeah, that's all I got to say for now. Man.
What a story.
Man.
I'll tell you what I would do, what I wouldn't do if I won the Powerball. That.
Yeah, I wouldn't kick a cop if I had just won $1.67.
I'd be too busy riding the high of winning what used to be.
What's the number? What's the number for? Where do you decide that you're going to kick a police officer? Again, I always say, do not get involved with people in an argumentative way that carry a Glock for a living.
No.
Don't do it.
Or have the power to put you in handcuffs.
I wouldn't do it with anybody that's carrying a Glock, to be perfectly honest with you. But in this case, and you were on parole, bro. For that. Not like he was on parole for, stealing a loaf of bread. This isn't Les Mis.
Unbelievable.
The Lord smiled on you. Somebody, whatever you believe in.
You got your first lucky break of your life.
Look at this. And then 3 days later, you decide to get lit in St. Pete Beach and kick a cop.
Idiot.
Okay, I'm done. Sorry. I know I get going sometimes, but this is just, it's like, and you can't make it up. That's why I said this is a Will Ferrell movie.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I could, I don't know. If he might be dumb enough to believe that I'm an attorney and be like, hey, buddy, I'm going to need about $50 million up front.
Yeah, right.
I'll represent you.
Right.
And then change my phone number.
That would be like Steve Carell playing that attorney in the Will Ferrell movie. That's who I'm going to cast, is Steve Carell plays the slick attorney that gets you out of trouble. And I don't know who John C. Reilly is. And then we just need a few others. Who plays the cop?
Terry Crews.
Okay.
To make this even dumber.
Sure. Oh, all right. Where do you want to go next? I gotta take a breath.
There's a lot of places.
You know what? Okay, here's where we'll go. I saw this today. This was now we're going to come back around to, speaking of oversized novelty checks, this is now a nice segue. So now I get to be serious and put a smile on everybody's face. I saw the article about Lenora Sellers giving South Florence High School's athletics department $16,000 out of his NIL account to help them, buy equipment and fund extra stuff for athletes at South Florence. And on top of that, Lenora Sellers now has his own football action figure.
You're going to buy that action figure.
I am. And
that would make a great desk prop in here.
Well, here's the thing, and I'm going to liken it. It is far more. I say far more. I'll throw it out again. I've thrown it out before. I think it's only slightly more realistic than my near life-size Ryan Brewer Gamecock football Lego knockoff.
When you say life size, I mean this is a real human-sized Lego.
Sure.
Knockoff Lego.
And by that, I mean, no, it's probably more like 2 inches tall. But Ryan's seen it. He knows. He knows it's life size. I didn't say it was life size. Somebody else did. Courtney.
Well, it sounds like you're saying it right here.
I'm just saying. But I have a picture of it. But now that is cool, man. 16 grand.
They can do a lot with that.
Yeah, that was very cool. He, what a great kid. And we're getting ready to talk a lot more about him with Clark Brooks from SC StatCat here in just a few minutes. Not only about Lenoris, but so many different rankings of quarterbacks right now, and this is going to be a really good year for quarterbacks, I believe, in the Southeastern Conference. And it's funny because we were putting Nico on all those lists just a few weeks ago, and now we'll just put Joey Aguilar there instead since Nico decided to move on to UCLA in the Big Ten. And I say decided in air quotes. But it is going to be a really good year. And look, I'm high on Gunnar Stockton. I think Carson Beck is a good quarterback. He is. Is there any reason to believe right now that Beck is better than Stockton? I'm not sure there is.
I mean, well, you go back to that Sugar Bowl. Is there any way to, would you believe that if Carson Beck started that game, they win? I don't think they win even with Carson.
I don't. The way Notre Dame played. Yeah, I mean Notre Dame was just so good defensively that night. Georgia was too. Remember, Georgia was too. Well, Notre Dame got the return and the fumble, right? Yeah. So
it wasn't even a strip sack. Yeah.
No. Georgia fumbled and Notre Dame just had to go like 4 yards, right?
Yep.
So that's all Notre Dame did on offense was a return and that. But both defenses were outstanding. But I just think Notre Dame was better on the night defensively.
And think about it, too. The thing in the SEC that's so fascinating with quarterbacks, I think the overall pool of quarterbacks is better. But the question marks are like teams at the top, right? How's Arch Manning going to do for the full year?
Yeah.
Right? And in defenses knowing exactly what his strengths and weaknesses are. That's going to be a question. Obviously, Gunnar Stockton. Those are like Texas and Georgia are considered to be, once again, at least Seth Emerson wrote that he believes that those are still the two teams to beat in the SEC. And there are some mild quarterback questions there because, again, what is Gunnar Stockton once the book is out on him? Right? We saw him in the second half against Texas and a full game against Notre Dame. You could see what made him a highly coveted quarterback prospect or a guy that Georgia's developed and somebody they trust to run that offense. But we don't know. And the thing with Alabama, Ty Simpson, a highly touted quarterback coming out of high school, sat the entire time, but we don't know. Like last season, the only sample size we have of him was garbage time snaps. I think he threw 25 passes last year against Western Kentucky, Wisconsin, Mercer, and Oklahoma. 19 of those 25, Jay, came against Western Kentucky and Mercer.
No.
So we don't know if he's any good or not. A lot of the established quarterbacks that we have that we know are really good are outside that top two. Your Garrett Nussmeier, your Lenoris Sellers. I mean, even Taylor Green at Arkansas is somebody that I think is a really solid quarterback and kind of surpassed the expectation that I had for him last season. Marcel Reed at A&M, Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt, DJ Lagway at Florida. These are teams that are knocking on the door to be in that top two are the ones who don't have question marks at quarterback.
Right.
And the top two do to various degrees.
Yeah, it is an interesting point, and I suppose, and I read Seth's piece, there's a lot about what's around them. There's a lot about both defenses.
And the defenses are, they're loaded. Texas and Georgia's defense.
You'll get the, and I've often felt that way. This isn't about now. I've going back to like even when, say, the Ravens won the Super Bowl 20-something years ago, with Dilfer. It's like, hey, you give an average offense 4, 5, 6 more opportunities per game than the regular teams get, eventually they're going to score.
The average offense can look like a really good one. And all you need is a quarterback who can play at least above replacement level.
And as long as they just get them back on the field, eventually they're going to score.
And that's the thing like with someone like Gunnar Stockton, someone we know less of than an Arch Manning.
Right.
If he's not, like, let's just say like his worst case scenario is that he's just not exceptional, they can still win the national championship. Because the rest of the roster is that great around him. But if he's bad, we're talking about a team that is going full Iowa, right? That's how important.
Yeah. I mean, if he's throwing pick, but you know what? I don't know that he gets to have the opportunity to be bad before they make some kind of change. Now I don't know what's behind him either. I know there's a couple of guys that we've heard of, but he's going to be the starter going in. But yeah, if he starts just throwing, if he's 1-to-1 pick to touchdown ratio, then Kirby's pulling him. Bobo's pulling him. And then, of course, it'll be, well, Bobo shouldn't have him throwing the ball that much.
You got to do it a little bit. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can 3-yard.
Bobo's never. Listen, some dude could have like whatever the best quarterback ranking is, and Georgia fans would be like, well, if Bobo wasn't there, he'd be even better. It's like, well, you can't do any better than this. Well, he could if Bobo wasn't here.
If he didn't have Mike Bobo as his offense coordinator.
We'll talk quarterbacks with Clark Brooks, SEC. I know a guy named Connor Brooks is why I said that. Clark Brooks, SEC Stat Cat, coming up on the other side. Keep it here. 19 minutes after 4 o'clock here on a Friday afternoon. Coming up next hour, Coach Stuart Lake will join us. He and Derek on the calls. The Gamecocks take on the Florida Gators in SEC baseball tonight. We'll talk with him about the series, about honoring some teams of yesteryear that did quite well around these parts. That and more coming up in just a bit. But right now, welcome onto the program, Clark Brooks. He is not the guy that just runs SEC StatCat. He founded the whole dadgum thing, and it is a really great site for you to follow along on Twitter and online at scstatcat.com if you're really into the analytics of where sports are these days, especially around the Southeastern Conference. Clark is your man. Appreciate you, and glad Elijah got us hooked up with you, Clark. Hope things are going well for you. We were just talking as we brought you on right before the break. This could be one of those, years of the quarterback in the Southeastern Conference. 1 through 16, where are you kind of looking now in May after spring in terms of some historical significance as to just how deep this group of quarterbacks really is?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Then it just moves on to just the top end quality of players. So, I'm also in charge of our On3 impact ratings, which is our in-season, who's the number one quarterback, who's the 17th tight end, whatever. But we have a high number of 5-star quarterbacks in the SEC. So in general, we have 7 right now, 5-star, and 4 of them come from the SEC with room to grow moving forward. Taylor Green, 6'6" alien, really, really nice in the open field, strong arm. He's someone who could potentially rise into that class as well. And, of course, even though Nico is no longer in the SEC, he absolutely had a lot of eyeballs with what happened with him this spring, and we want to see if his play can catch up to where he thinks he values himself. But, yeah, that's just where you're looking at. It's a very high-end group. Of course, the low end, there's a lot of uncertainty. You have some first-year starters. You have Zach Calzada, transferring back into the conference from being at Incarnate Word the last 2 years. But, I just love the depth, and I love the top-end quality of the position entering the season.
And when you look at South Carolina specifically, there's the question with the new offensive coordinator and Mike Shula, and Mike has had some success with quarterbacks of the archetype that Lenora Sellers is. When you look at your impact ratings and you're kind of breaking all of this down, where do you kind of project, even with a new offensive coordinator, to kind of see Lenora Sellers and what he can do to impact this South Carolina team to put him in the same position that they were last year in terms of competing for a college football playoff spot?
Absolutely. Well, look, first of all, he has physical traits other people just do not, point blank. That's why a lot of people this time of year in the NFL ranks are projecting him for a first-round talent. He just has things you cannot teach. But when you look at his let's say, performance, he's a very prudent passer. Don't get me wrong, fumbles, that is an issue. He's got to clean that stuff up or, he's really going to hurt his stock. But as far as a passer, he really is prudent. He doesn't press a whole lot. So looking at our impact study where I'm charting, the top 50 returning passers against their hardest opponents to try and weed out the poop states of the world that can really skew statistics. Well, Lenora Sellers has one of the lowest interceptable pass rates and one of the highest depth-adjusted accuracy percentages. So that puts more risk-reward the further passes travel downfield. So he's only throwing passes he knows he can complete, and he's doing a very good job of just not putting the ball into harm's way. So those are things that really do, help him stand out. And then when you add in the sack avoidance, the thing that really is driving a lot of these next-level projections, you don't want just someone who can just stand in the pocket. You need people that can create in backyard ball, and when designs fail, and he absolutely is well-positioned to do so and be one of the best in the SEC at that.
Clark, last year here in Columbia, we saw Garrett Nussmeier, and it was the first time I had seen him in person, and I was like, okay, I like this kid. Some mocks, and look, it's April now turning into May. I'm not too worried about him, but Nussmeier seems a little farther down, and I've been telling Elijah, this guy has the look of a number one pick. What does he do well? What might at least some evaluators right now or analysts be looking at that they don't see relative to Lenoris, Arch Manning, Cade Klubnik, kids like that?
Well, yeah, he's 6'2", so again, it's just people want that 6'4" archetype guy. But, he has the arm, and despite being that old school kind of more dangerous from the pocket type of person, his sack avoidance was actually really, really well. So, yes, it helps to play behind, a future first-round pick and Will Campbell at your blind side, but he himself beat pressures ultimately with his arm. And it wasn't until the back end of the schedule where, injuries and just a lot of things kind of got to them and forced their offense to do a little bit more, nickel and diming. There wasn't a whole lot of explosive plays. That puts a lot of stress on the quarterback to consistently execute dozens plays in a row to drive down the field as opposed to get some chunk gains. So that's one thing that really did, it didn't really do himself any favors last year for LSU, but it got a lot of people's attention. Having to, grind and game and call audibles at the line of scrimmage, really do that pro-style type of operation. So when you're doing that and when you're not, taking sacks and you're constantly moving forward, yeah, you can impress people. But I will say it wasn't until the last, 2 games of the season when Chris Hilton came back, when they had a little bit more juice at that wide receiver position to stress people deep. He was not a standout deep ball thrower last year, not a standout downfield thrower, so beyond 10 yards downfield. He really did not, let's just say, finish above the SEC average until those last 2 weeks when he had some extra speed. Obviously this year, you have Berrien Brown, very, very fast. I don't know if you played that college football video game, but he's one of the fastest people in the game. Really can open it up. And when you have that with Hilton, with Nick Anderson, if he can, get acclimated to that scheme, and when you have Aaron Anderson from the inside really able to be a dynamic slot, he has a lot of weapons, and it should all come together to where he can attack all areas of the field and really, help LSU potentially, finally, for Mr. Kelly, get to the playoffs.
Finally, yes. It's seemingly underachieving since he's taken that job. But, Clark, I look at this field of quarterbacks, and every year we have this. It's by the nature of college football with roster changing every year. But there are a couple teams that I think are almost, completely banking on their small sample size quarterbacks to be able to take them to that next level. So I want to give you a group of quarterbacks, and I'll ask you which one of these guys, despite the small sample size, you still project to be able to get their team over the hump. And that's going to be Austin Simmons, Ty Simpson, Gunnar Stockton, Arch Manning, Bo Prabula. You get that group right there. Which one do you probably feel the most confident about will have the best impact on their team?
That's an interesting question because some of those guys are just in better environments to where, it doesn't necessarily, they can be average and it doesn't matter. Other ones, not so much. But, Arch is definitely going to be set up for success. Sarkisian is one of the best play callers around. I don't necessarily like calling certain people game managers these days. I call them offensive executives because they're just executing the offense, right? Nice. And we know Sark's scheme has a lot of play actions, misdirections, screens, gimmies, dump-offs, just really yak-oriented stuff where, the quarterback can just go out there and be a point guard. Similar with Gunnar Stockton, believe it or not, besides the veer and shoot super spread scheme, so that's, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Arkansas when Bryles was there, besides that type of stuff, Georgia's quarterbacks consistently had the highest, let's just call them scheme makeup, where it is drop back play action, RPOs, screens in their makeup. So Gunnar Stockton, I do believe he's going to be able to, he's going to have to do a little bit more on third down. Hopefully those receivers can hang on to these passes this year. But he should be able to, let's just say, slide in there and get fairly decent results. I'm worried about Missouri and Bo Prabula. Look, they're losing some of the best linemen. They're losing their best weapon in Luther Burden. Yes, they are bringing Hardy, so the run game should be strong. But I have very little faith that that's going to be a potent, very threatening pass game at this point in time. And as far as Alabama, I think having Ryan Grubb calling plays should work. I'm actually, as far as an offseason project, I'm actually going back and reviewing the schemes for all the SEC, what they've run, what was effective. And looking at Alabama's, my gosh, Alberts, which it doesn't require a whole lot of cerebral approach to just call a lot, was by far their most featured pass concept last year. So if you're just banking on, your receivers to run off coverages and Jalen Miller to get stuff with his legs or stretch the ball with his, with his strong arm, I just don't see Ty Simpson being used the same way. So what are they going to do to maximize him? Are they going to be able to find a little bit more potency in the run game? This is a scheme that has not been able to pull linemen effectively the last few years. It's definitely north-south with inside zones and duo. That's where they found a lot of their success. And when you're taking away, again, that quarterback run game that was so potent for them, I just have a lot more concerns with them, a lot more uncertainty. I at least know with Probela, how Eli Drinkwitz likes to operate. Obviously, he's been there for a few years. He doesn't like to really change the whole a whole lot of other stuff. And like, some of these other schemes, high motion, play action, he's going to run his outside off tackle and just let that be the proponent for his offense. So he doesn't need his quarterback to be average. I don't think Alabama can get to where they want to be if the quarterback is just average. And since there's a lot more uncertainty with how the operation is going to go, I'm just a lot more pessimistic with what they have to offer at this point in time.
Clark, great stuff. Good to have you on the show. Again, glad Elijah hooked us up with you, and we'll do it again more this summer. We'll see you at Media Days, too, but really appreciate the time, man. Good stuff.
Absolutely. You guys have a good one and enjoy your weekend.
Thank you, sir. That's Clark Brooks, SEC_StatCat on Twitter, and again, SECStatCat.com. A lot of folks already into what he does, but check it out if you hadn't already. Lots more to do on the Postgame Show. Oh, guys, you're not feeling like yourself as you get older. A lot of things just off, and whether it's at work, working out, love life, wondering why, don't wait for it to change or go away. Instead, do yourself and your family a favor. See Dr. Dan Balknight and his team at the Men's Clinic. You get a one-on-one consultation that gets to the root of your issues and gets you back to feeling like you used to. More importantly, like you want to. No such thing as a one-size-fits-all treatment at the Men's Clinic. They've been doing this for years now. Dan and his team are experts in health care for men, and their one purpose is to make you, again, feel like yourself. 803-875-MENS. That's the phone number to set up a free consultation, and you can learn more right now at themensclinicsc.com. Again, do it for yourself. Do it for your family. See Dan Balknight and his team at the Men's Clinic.
From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell with some really good news, and that is that there are no accidents to report that are causing traffic backups. So that's a positive. We do have a little bit of a traffic backup caused by a disabled vehicle. It's got the center lane blocked on I-26 westbound at Bush River Road near exit 108A, so traffic's backed up a little bit there, but nothing accident-related, it looks like. And, of course, some long-term road construction that may or may not impact your commute on I-20 and I-26.
Good conversation there with Clark Brooks. Appreciate his time. SEC Stat Cat. Been around for 7 or 8 years now. It's been a while.
Approaching a decade.
Yeah, it's been a while. But good stuff. And just loves delving into the numbers. Our buddy Will Helms does a lot of that kind of stuff too. Just, and guys like you, I know, listen, I look at some numbers, but for instance, Clark can probably tell you how they come up with a QBR.
And explain it, yes.
Of course, by the time he's halfway through it, and it's not about him.
It's the subject matter.
I'll be like, it's all pops and buzzes from here. Like I have no idea. I still don't. I don't know how. I don't know what they're looking for. But anyway, seriously, just running through the list, and I feel like we hit almost all 16 quarterbacks just now. I mean, we didn't break them down, but I think everybody's name got mentioned.
Yeah.
Maybe we didn't hear Lagway and Arnold.
Right. I think we could do a whole hour with him.
Oh, easy.
We'll definitely have more time this summer to be able to break down his findings.
But in a lot of ways, there's not a bad quarterback in the Southeastern Conference, and there's a lot of really good ones.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're most concerned with, say, Calzada going back to Kentucky from A&M after going to Incarnate Word, or Bo Prabula at Mizzou, and he kind of broke down why, but that kid could play. Now, what's around him? Yeah, no Luther Burden. That's going to matter.
It's going to hurt, and not having a top 10 pick as your left tackle.
But questions at a couple of places. But again, Joey Aguilar had a good run at App State. He's at UT now. That's Tennessee, not Texas. We know what Texas has. We know what A&M has. Again, I think maybe if Lenoris was kind of a breakout last year. I mean, you look at what's going on at Arkansas. We know what –
he mentioned Taylon Green. Yeah, Taylon Green's a really exciting quarterback, man. He's exciting.
Yeah. And may have to do what a lot of college quarterbacks do, and that's win the game by himself.
Definitely.
I think sometimes he'll be able to, right?
Yeah, he did a lot this past year. He bailed Arkansas out a lot.
Help me out. I'm drawing a blank. Who's at Mississippi?
Ole Miss, that's Austin Simmons. He was the backup last year, but Lane Kiffin is very high on him. But he's been grooming him.
Yeah. So, by and large, man, I mean, there doesn't seem like there's a bad quarterback. Now, somebody's going to finish last in any kind of statistical rankings. And
someone's going to have to play quarterback at Mississippi State.
And State, I was going to say State may be the outlier here. But they've got an offensive-minded coach, and maybe there's a little bit more settling in of their system. You'd like to believe that. Good luck. But it is kind of fascinating. And what is it, what's a guy like Diego Pavia do this year, right?
Mm-hmm. Now, again, it's another example of, all right, tape's out on him. It's a very unique offense. How do defenses scheme up against him the second go-round? And thankfully for Pavia, he still has a lot of his weapons still at his disposal, including Eli Stowers, who I even saw one way too early mock draft that had him as a projected late first-round pick at tight end. And in Tim Beck's offense, they target the tight end a lot. So how much of an impact is he still going to be able to have with a year of film that teams are able to have to look at and try to game plan against him? But Pavia still, he's a gamer. And in terms of just athletic gifts and the tools of stuff that you can't teach, I mean, he doesn't have what DJ Lagway, Lenoris Sellers, Arch Manning, those type of guys have. but he's a gutsy guy who is just a winner, and he runs that offense about as well as anybody can run that offense.
It's fun to watch, so we'll see where it goes. Speaking of tight ends, to shift but stay with college football, many of you now have probably heard that Ian Shefflin, the Clemson basketball, I'll call him a star just because he's a star for Clemson. He's not going to go play NBA.
He was a
ball.
vital part of their success.
But he's certainly very popular up in Clemson. He put himself into the basketball portal in the hopes that maybe some rule changes could allow people like him with no basketball eligibility left to get a fifth year. But has admitted, it's probably a long shot. But hey, you may as well try. And I don't blame him, right? Mm-hmm. Well, now, and this is a true story, he has been offered the opportunity, I suppose this is a walk-on kind of thing, to play tight end for Clemson. And he's going to do it.
He's got the height for it.
Now, my question is, and I ask this somewhat seriously, massive PR stunt or legitimate opportunity to help a team that believes it can win a national title?
I think it maybe not PR stunt, because I don't know what he really gains from a PR perspective, but I mean, he can still.
Well, not just for him, just for the school. Just in general, just in like, hey, because the kid has a presence. I've said before, those of you who watched him play, and there was a picture of him the other day that I just said perfectly just encapsulated this. And I don't mean this as a slam. The kid can, look, he can play. So I promise you, I'm not here dogging on him. But I've said he looks like the stereotypical villain bully in a teen angst comedy. He's the antagonist. And he just has that look. To me, that's what he looks like. But he's serious. And, he talked about speaking with a guy in Indianapolis who played college basketball, had not. By the way, he said he last played football as a freshman in high school.
That's a long time.
And you're not just playing for some football program.
You're playing for a pretty good one.
But Dabo himself said, I want you to come try this. Would you be interested? I really do want you to come try this. And Ian said, sure, I'll do it.
There is not just precedent, throughout the history of college football and basketball. Just last year, Caleb Lohner, who played basketball at BYU and Utah, played on both sides of the Holy War, ended up exhausting all of his basketball eligibility and joined the Utah Utes football team at 6'7".
Right.
6'7", about 234 pounds. Last year, he caught only 4 passes. They were all touchdowns. He only caught 4 passes in his college career. And you know what your Denver Broncos did in the last round of the NFL draft? They drafted him.
Took him.
They took him.
And the reason they did, I saw this. I read about it. They were very serious. They initially thought, let's see if we can get him as an undrafted free agent. And then the talk, I guess the buzz was a lot of people are going to want him if he slips out. And so Sean Payton wanted him. And they said, well, let's not allow that to happen. Let's make sure we are the ones that can sign him. And they did. Mo Ailey Cox is who I was thinking of. Played
at VCU. Never played football in college.
Played basketball at VCU for 4 years. He also had not played football since his freshman year of high school. And this coming season will be season number 8 as a Colt in the National Football League. So again, it's a fascinating story. And the guy, again, the kid just has a presence. He really does, I will never let go of my stereotypical feel about him. But I don't mean it as a slam.
He has the look.
He just does. The first time I saw him like 2 seasons ago, I was like, man, that kid, he's the bully. He's the bully in whatever movie. You pick one.
Disney Channel would have the time of their lives casting him as a bully in one of their movies.
And he's tall, so he's bigger than you. He's got that mop of hair, and he has that. It's not a mean smile, but like when he smiles, it's almost like a smirk,
like a bleep eating grin.
Yeah, there you go.
I can imagine him shoving me into a locker and calling me a dork. Yes. Right. And I'm not small, but I can still see that scenario being a possibility.
So good luck. It could be that could be a heck of a story. But again, and I say PR stunt. It just is it a hey, look at me. But if Dabo's not doing this on a whim either. So
if he thinks he can catch the ball, yeah, he might throw him a couple of red zone targets.
4 passes,
go up and get it.
4
son.
touchdowns. Yeah, he is. He's 6'8". He's a big boy. Lots more to do on the postgame show. 11 minutes in front of 5 o'clock here on a Friday afternoon. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. Final few minutes of our second hour coming up. Top of the hour headlines, 5:15. Stuart Lake, the coach, will join us from down at the ballpark. Gamecocks in Florida, first of 3 tonight. We'll have it for you beginning at 6:45. Hang on.
Yes. That's what our sheet says.
Yes, this piece of paper says 6:45. The reason I did that is to prove on radio
That there's a piece of paper in front of you.
In the meantime, it's time for our new favorite segment. For Elijah, it's because he gets to put stuff together. For me, because we get to listen to game show music.
And since we talked about Family Feud this morning,
Yes.
the Steelers to the divisional round of the AFC playoffs. Meaning they either be the 1 seed and they're just there automatically, or they make the playoffs and win a game.
God.
So I don't think anyone's going to expect them to be like a legit Super Bowl contender. This question's in
I mean,
in
there's
honor of
still.
our
I
Ben
think
Lubasia.
he still only makes them the third best team in their division. It's just going to be hard for them to win their wild card game because
They can win a
Baltimore
road
or
wild card
Cincinnati is going to win that division next year.
game. Yes.
Cincinnati better get some improvement. I'm going to say nay.
Going nay.
Nay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Lou Bajak and Steeler fans everywhere. My buddy Billy up in Charlotte. Sorry.
Big horse race this weekend. Don't know if you've heard about it.
I have.
Called the Kentucky Derby.
Kentucky Derby, if they say in England.
That's right. It's the Derby in England. But, we fought an entire war, specifically in this state.
Two
a lot
of
of that in this state.
2 of them.
To separate ourselves from their tyranny. One of the horses, J or nay, one of the horses outside of the 3 highest odds will win the Kentucky Derby. So it's a horse not named Journalism, Sandman, or Sovereignty.
Yeah, so the only thing I think would make me say J on this is that I did see that it's supposed to rain pretty heavily at times overnight and in the morning tomorrow in beautiful Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah,
And so, are any of those horses a mutter?
that's true. Yeah.
So, I don't know if it'll, and there's like a 50-50 chance of rain throughout the afternoon.
And the 3 that I just mentioned are heavy favorites.
Yes.
Journalism's 3-1. Sovereignty is 5-1. Sandman is 6-1. Everybody else is double digits to 1. Many of them are 30.
You know what? Because of the rain, because of the track, you know what? What was the question? Was someone outside of those 3?
Yes.
J.
I love it.
There's going to be a mutter that has to win this thing, man.
I mean, the conditions will make this to where it
I
is
think
not
so.
a normal
Yeah.
horse race.
I think so. So give me the field. Yes.
Who knew that we were the horse racing authority
Well,
here in Columbia, South Carolina?
I did. Because we just talked about it.
But it would have been really funny if for that one you just picked nay because horses.
I see what you did.
Yeah,
See what you did there.
would have been very appropriate. All right.
All right. Got one more?
J or nay?
Yep.
N-A-Y, not
Yes.
N-E-I-G-H. St. Louis Blues will force a Game 7 by beating the Winnipeg Jets at home tonight. You are 1-1 so far on NHL J or nays. Stanley Cup playoff time.
Where's the game?
The game is in St. Louis.
Yeah, give me the Blues. J. Yeah. They got a good history. They got a great fan base. They won the cup a couple years ago. It's been more than a couple, but
2019.
yeah, it's been more than a couple, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And speaking of maybe potentially playing,
And this
Game
isn't even
7,
the real Winnipeg Jets. This is like the revamped.
This is the artist formerly known as the Atlanta Thrashers.
Yes. Yeah.
It's the ghost of the Thrashers.
Because the real Winnipeg Jets, were they Arizona and now are Utah?
I believe.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, because the Hartford Whalers are now
They're Raleigh.
Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, they're Raleigh.
I think the
And the old
Winnipeg
Quebec Nordiques
Jets,
are the Avalanche.
Yes. So the old Winnipeg Jets would have been
I think they went
Arizona.
to Phoenix. Yeah, I think they went
and
to
now
Phoenix.
Utah.
And now Utah.
So J or nay. Big hoops game on tonight too. The Warriors close out the Houston Rockets tonight.
Is that out on the coast or in Texas?
It's on the Bay because they're
Yeah.
the 7 seed.
Give me the Dubs. Dubs.
I think so too. Even
Dubs.
though
They've been playing well.
I love this Rockets team. Though.
Yeah.
They'll be back. This is part of like a rite of passage for contending NBA teams.
Right.
Is that your first playoff run with your core, you usually get G-checked at some point by a team that's been there before. And this feels like this falls into that.
So, yeah, Dubs, Dubs.
Banking on Steph Curry having a big night.
He should. Speaking of NBA, real quick, our buddy Alan Cole just put out a few minutes ago that Colin Murray Boyles has indeed been invited to the NBA Draft Combine. Headlines coming up. Waking up feeling a little stiff, neck pain, back pain, joint pain, just, time to get that thing fixed. Well, you need to go see the pros at the Joint Chiropractic Centers, 4 of them across the Midlands here in the greater Columbia area. Harbison Boulevard, Forest Drive, Roberts Branch off Killian, Sunset Boulevard in Lexington. The Joint is convenient. It's affordable. They will help you maintain a healthy body, and they'll help you prevent reoccurring issues. Plus, you never have to worry about appointments. You never have to worry about insurance. You can just show up Monday through Friday, 10 to 7, Saturdays 10 until 4. Plus, the Joint is also FSA and HSA approved. If you've never been, for just $29, an initial visit gets you a consultation, exam, and an adjustment. Find out if it's right for you. Get into the system. They'll see you all across the city, all across the country. Remember this, you don't have to feel bad to feel better at the Joint.
From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell with, thankfully, no accidents to report that are causing issues. We do have some reports of stop-and-go traffic that are causing decent backups here in town, starting with some stop-and-go traffic on I-20 westbound between Farrow Road at exit 72 and Fairfield Road exit 70. A disabled vehicle has the center lane completely blocked on I-26 westbound at Bush River Road at exit 108A. And then lastly, we have some stop-and-go traffic reported on I-77 northbound. That's between Fort Jackson Boulevard at exit 10 and Forest Drive at exit 12.
It is 5 o'clock news time on this Friday. It's also the final hour of the postgame show. Welcome back in along with Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. We start with South Carolina baseball. Paul Maneri's club opening up a 3-game set tonight with the Florida Gators. First pitch set for 7 o'clock. We'll have it for you starting at 6:45 here on the Game in Columbia and across the Gamecock Radio Network. Pitching matchups look like this for the weekend. Brandon Stone goes for Carolina. Sophomore righty is 2-5 with a 4.96, 36 strikeouts, 10 walks, and 49 innings pitched. Liam Peterson goes for the Gators. He is 7-2, a sophomore righty, a 3.83, 80 strikeouts. You heard me right, kids. 80 strikeouts, 22 walks, in 51 2/3. So he's going to get some strikeouts.
Yeah, he's pretty good at that. Had a solid year last year. He's gotten that control a little bit fixed. That was kind of his big knock last year. Big strikeout guy, gave up a lot of runs. That ERA's gone down.
Yeah, I'll take 4-1, and I'll take an ERA under 4. 80 strikeouts in 51 2/3. Tomorrow, Jake McCoy goes for Carolina. Sophomore lefty is 4-3 with a 6.38, 67 strikeouts and 48 innings pitched, 30 walks, though. That's a lot. Aiden King is a freshman right-hander for Florida. He goes tomorrow afternoon 4-2 with a 3.47, 53 strikeouts, 15 walks in 49 1/3. Coach O'Sullivan and Coach Maneri have not decided who will start for them on Sunday.
Oh, TBD is pitching against TBD.
Yep, for both.
Ooh, I don't know if that's legal. If you can do that.
Yeah, who's going to stop you?
NCAA rules apparently unenforceable. So, I mean, I guess you can have one person, TBD, pitch for two teams at once.
A little bit of a long cut here, but from Coach Maneri in his pregame press opportunity, just, look, you got 10 games left, and you pretty much have to win at least 8 of them to even have any feel good going into Hoover. That's not going to get you in. 8-2 ain't going to get you in, probably, but at least make you feel good. That includes the non-con you have left. But here's Paul on the goals for the final couple weeks.
Oh, I just want to see us. I've said this many times. No matter, what day we have it, if we have a tough loss or whatever, we're just never going to give up. And our players know that. You're going to see, look, they're still hustling up to the cage. They're still disciplined, doing everything right. Nobody's hanging them up. We're going to play this season right out to the very end, and I think you owe it to your university, you owe it to your state, you owe it to the fans that come to the game that care about the program. Nobody's happy with, the final results of what we've got. I shouldn't say final results. Nobody's happy with, where we stand in the SEC standings and all those kinds of things. But you still have to get up every morning and have pride in what you do and go out there and do the very best you can. We'll analyze it all after the season's over. Where were our areas that need upgrading, and where, what do we do going forward? When you take over a program, there's limited stuff that you can do to make the program better. I went through this at LSU. I went through it everywhere. The Air Force Academy. I went through it at St. Thomas. It's a hard process to go through, but it also makes it that much more rewarding when you get it the way you want it to be. But people aren't that patient. They want to see now. And I feel bad that we haven't delivered in the way that most people would want it to be delivered. And like I said, we'll analyze it later where we need to improve, and we're working. Obviously, you can see the young man over there around the batting cage. He had hit a lot of home runs before he got hit by a pitch the other day and broke his hand. So we're gonna keep working at it. But we got 10 games left, and I'm excited about those 10 games. We got a good Florida Gator team coming in. They're always so talented. We go to Auburn, who's having a great year. We've got another midweek game, and then we finish with a school that I know a little bit about.
So there you go. Analyze later. Try to win now. But it's going to take a heck of a run to get you where you want to be. And again, I get what he says there, Elijah. Fans don't always have the patience. Yeah, any school, anywhere, but it's a different animal here, and he knows that. I'm not saying like he doesn't understand that, but fans can look around and go, a year ago we were in position to host, and a year later it's going to take a miracle just to get into the tournament and be a 3 seed somewhere probably really far away.
The wheels fell off.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah. So that's the thing around here is that this is supposed to be better every year. And that's not just on Paul Maneri. There's no doubt. This is far from just a Paul Maneri problem. It's a Mark Kingston problem. It's a Ray Tanner problem. There are a lot of people that have a hand in this, and now Paul and Jeremiah are going to be the ones that have to try to dig everybody out.
Take the next steps to fix it.
Yeah. 7 o'clock tonight, and we'll have more coming up in about 10, 15 minutes with our very good friend, Coach Stuart Lake, who'll be on the call tonight with Derek Scott. Continuing our integrated media headlines of the day. When I say it bummed me out today, I get it, but I don't have a favorite NBA team. And once George Shinn decided to be a complete, numbskull and take the Hornets out of the Carolinas, it was easy because I loved Tim Duncan in college to just morph over to the Spurs. And then I realized, just how amazing a coach Greg Popovich was. San Antonio loves this team. It's their only pro team. And, they were good back when I was a little kid with George Gervin, but they didn't win titles. But, he won 5 titles. But if you didn't hear today, Pop has decided to step away. He's not retiring fully from working for San Antonio. He will become president of the team. And he's always had a role far above just head coach. I know R.C. Buford was like the GM, but they were kind of like Bobby Cox and John Sherholtz back in the day, or some of the other great, Jerry West and Pat Riley with L.A. in the day, really working in tandem to create a generational team. But he had a stroke last year, a mild one, but nevertheless, I don't know, you had a stroke. And
there's no good stroke.
No, right. No. And he's been away for a while. He's 76 years old, but I was like, I get it. And you and I were talking about this a little bit earlier. You'd sort of said, man, it's going to be hard to come back no matter what. But apparently in some conversations with family, and he lost his wife a few years ago, and that was really hard on him. But he's decided to just focus on the the management side and not the coaching side. So
it's gonna be a lot easier.
Big loss. Most wins in the history of the NBA regular season. Only Phil Jackson has more titles, and and Red Auerbach. So he's tied with Pat Riley.
Yeah, he's got 5.
With 5. Coach of the year.
Pat, all in the same franchise.
Right. Coach of the year a bunch of times. Just a fantastic personality for the NBA, and brought so many foreign players in and really helped redevelop the game from that point of view.
I mean,
just did a lot.
Two of his big 3 he took as international players.
Yeah.
Tony Parker, I believe, was one of the last pick or two in the first round, and then Manu Ginobili was one of the last 3 picks in the draft.
Yeah.
And he turned that core into a core that won 5 titles.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be weird for me to see an entire season where Greg Popovich is not the head coach of the San Antonio Spurs. To give you an idea of how long he has had that job, his first game as a head coach for the San Antonio Spurs, I was 1 year old.
Wow.
I was still in diapers, man.
Well, that means I wasn't married yet, so there's
the San Antonio Spurs.
There's that.
Your children were not even born.
My children were not born. He's been amazing. And I wouldn't ever say, again, I've never really had a favorite team, but for all the years, even going through Kawhi's title, because there was a good, 7-8 year gap between titles 4 and 5.
Mm-hmm.
But Kawhi helped revitalize.
Almost 8, yeah.
Yeah, so he's been amazing. So we'll miss Greg Popovich, but right decision, I'm sure. Mitch Johnson, who was on Pop's staff and was interim coach through the rest of this past season, will take over on a full-time basis.
6 seasons in his career, his team won 60-plus games.
That's crazy. And was it 18 straight 50-win seasons?
Let's see.
Did I see that?
Let's go. 1, 2, 3.
I don't have it in front of me, but I saw somewhere, I think it was 18 straight 50-win. Yeah. Yes.
18.
Yeah.
I just counted 18.
18 straight 50-win seasons.
That's insane.
Yeah. Like that doesn't
that's a
happen.
level of consistency that's just not.
It's just so hard to do in pro sports.
Not possible.
It's just so hard to do.
Even some of like your better teams in the NBA, like, you know, they'll have injuries and they'll go through months where they're not playing particularly well, and they end up being 48 and 34 and end up, you know.
Yeah, now they won a bunch of titles during that run. Obviously, I'd like to liken them to the Braves. I wish the Braves had won five World Series. They went to a bunch.
You wish they were that dynastic, yeah. But from the 1999 NBA Finals up until 2007, so that's what, almost 10-year stretch, they won 4 of those.
Yeah.
So they winning almost half of the NBA titles in a decade is pretty impressive.
Speaking of the NBA, according to multiple sources, LeBron James suffered an MCL sprain in Game 5 against Minnesota. So had they continued onward, you might have been doing it without LeBron. So good news, shoulder shruggy guy, that they don't have to worry about it.
All the people making fun of him for how he reacted to the injury, I think now you look a
grade
foolish.
2 MCL sprain in his left knee. It'll be a 3 to 5 week recovery timeline. So he'll be all right.
He was playing through it in that game.
LeBron he's just otherworldly. I know people, look, he can be polarizing for whatever reasons because of the whole Jordan discussion.
Which is so dumb.
People don't like the Lakers or they love the Lakers, so there's polarization there. But the man, he's a machine. He's the Terminator. He just doesn't stop.
He just had this past year that he just had at age 40 is a career year for a lot of people.
Right.
Like his final stats for this season: 24 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. That's a career year for a lot of people. He's doing it at age 40.
Finally, Braves back at it tonight against the L.A. Dodgers. Atlanta has won 8 of their last 10, so they're feeling very good about themselves. But the Dodgers are also very good and, of course, swept Atlanta to start the regular season. Tonight, it will be Yoshinobu Yamamoto for L.A., 3-2 with a 1.06. 43 strikeouts in 34 innings. Grant Holmes and his hair and his mustache.
Yes.
Go for Atlanta tonight. He is 2-1 with a 4.50, 26 strikeouts in 28 innings pitched.
Give me the Braves on vibes alone.
Let's see what the money line is. Ooh, it's not good.
Well, that's where the value is.
Yeah,
we
that's
hope
true.
It's not good.
Braves are plus 155. LA is minus 185.
Sounds like I need to make a call.
See what you can do
before this game starts.
But again, Grant Holmes and his hair. So there's that.
Hair and the mustache.
That's
all I need to know.
That's a positive.
That is all I need to know.
At least it's extra.
And you're telling me I'm getting it plus odds? Okay.
Yeah, why not, right?
It's stash summer, baby.
7:15 first pitch from Truist in Northwest Atlanta. Coming up on the other side, we'll switch gears back to baseball right here in downtown Columbia, South Carolina. Coach Stuart Lake will join us. Carolina and Florida. What does Stuart see that gives him any hope of Carolina making that miracle run at the end of the year? We'll talk to Coach coming up. 19 minutes after 5 o'clock on this Friday afternoon. Welcome back in. It's the Postgame Show. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. Coming up in just over an hour's time, we'll give way to Carolina baseball with Derek Scott. And our next guest, the coach, Stuart Lake, on the call. Gamecocks and Florida, 1-3. Coach, good to have you. Been a couple of weeks. Not been a great run here of late. Coach Maneri in some pregame opportunity yesterday, basically saying, hey, we get it. We're working at it. We've done some of the math. Stuart, you have too. What's it going to take to have Carolina have any kind of chance of feeling good in Hoover? But it's got to start with tonight and winning another series. What do you like about what this team can do this weekend, especially, Coach, without Ethan Petrie and with a banged-up Nathan Hall?
Well, first thing, the last day of class was Monday. So this is a great time of year for a college baseball player. Hopefully exams aren't too tough as they kind of finish them up this week and next week, so you get to really just be with your guys and your teammates. But, coaches, he's been very upfront with it. That magic number's kind of been 13. Florida got in last year with 13, and we saw how they ended up in the Final Four, basically, of Omaha. So we know that number's going to be hard to achieve, but it's not impossible, so you still got that to go. But, Jay, to be honest with you, the biggest thing I say is it's always great to be back here at Founders, and the success we've had against Florida in the last few years, and especially here, it at least gives you that little boost as you go into this series.
Stuart, from the people that you talk to on a day-to-day basis, I mean, you're a baseball lifer. You never get out of it. You talk to a lot of people, and you're around this team a lot. What do you is the sense that you get, maybe as a consensus, of what has been missing with this team, and maybe what are some of the best ways to get this program right moving forward, especially considering it's a steep uphill climb to get to where you want to be this year. But for the future, what do you think this program and the people that you talk to kind of believe needs to happen?
Yeah, first with this year's team, when you lose some guys that you've lost, Jersenbeck was just all alone was going to be your Friday night guy and never got to throw an inning in that regard. And then the different injuries that we've gone through, and now it's, we don't know. Maybe we've seen the last of Ethan Petrie, but certainly won't see him for a few weeks. But the thing about baseball right now that's changed so much in my career as a coach is how quickly you can turn a roster around. So it is going to be a huge job in front of it for these coaches because, we lose our 9 seniors. We lose our entire outfield basically to the draft with Petrie and Hall. So we're just going to really, Coach Maneri didn't hold any bones back yesterday. So we got to get our kind of players in here. They're more physical guys that understand what I want. And I know that's his goal to do it because, believe me, I'm ready to see this program back where we're just talking about Omaha at this time of year.
Stuart, on that note, and I'm not going to make you and me sound like old dudes, even though we're basically just a few months apart in age, and I know that. But in all seriousness, in terms of trying to block out the noise, these days you just I don't know how kids do it. I don't know if they want to. Back in the earlier part of social media, and you've been coaching through this to go to Elijah's point. You've seen this kind of growth of the attention that can be paid. How much does that matter to these guys, and how much does it matter knowing what fans around here want this program? And we're going to talk more about that in a minute from an historical perspective. But, how hard is it in your estimation for them to block that out, or do they not anymore block it out?
Well, I'm a parent of a 20-year-old, and it really kind of helped me in the last 5 years understand. I didn't understand a lot of the stuff when I was coaching at the end that I was dealing with because I don't look on my phone or at my computer to feel good about myself. And then I started to realize this is part of their life. This is not one of those we can be a tough guy and just say don't look at it. So I started to really learn how to use that and make sure that they knew social media is really everybody's highlights. Most people don't go on social media to tell you they're having a bad day. They go on to tell you how blessed they are and how great their day is. So I started really addressing players, when I was here in 21 with the Brady Allens and all going, hey, understand if you're going to go on and read after you have a good night, you're going to go and read when you have a bad night. It's going to be a lot different. So it is a true part of our game, but I think there's some great stuff to it because what it's done, we've got guys on this team that learned about our program during our successful years. So there's a lot of positives to it, but you do have to be very, very aware of it's a part of their life now.
And part of, I guess, just thinking about this earlier, turning around a program, like getting to where we got now is kind of a slow burn, right? It's a bunch of little things that maybe add up to end up having some bad luck one year and having a year that we're in the middle of right now. But we see programs in the SEC that have done a really good job at really rising from irrelevance. Like Tennessee, we've talked about on the show a lot, has risen from irrelevance to being a premier program in the sport right now. I think what they've done at Kentucky to get them to Omaha last year is something I never thought I would see in my lifetime, Kentucky baseball being that good. And all sports are copycat leagues in a way. Yeah. What's maybe one thing from these programs when you see a lot of them up close and personal and you keep up with the year to year, how they've made this change, that slow burn for them to being relevant? How do you think South Carolina can mirror some of that to be able to get themselves back in the position where we used to be?
Yeah, and I'm a hitting guy. Y'all know that, and I won't talk about it. But the key that I see in this league that has helped these certain teams really take that jump now is getting back the certain kind of guys on the mound that you want and having those starters. That's why I enjoy the Brandon Stone and what he's been able to do and kind of create us a Friday night guy right now. But I think the key to really Gamecock baseball making that quick jump back will be what type pitchers we can get, whether it be through the portal or junior college or maybe a high school guy coming in. But I really feel that's going to be the biggest thing that will have to be addressed first. And the coaches know that too. And this league's always about power, so we got to make sure we're plugging some of those in. I'm afraid we're going to probably lose one of our best ones in Ethan, but that's going to be the big key to me is getting those right kind of guys back on the mound.
Before we talk about some of the big events going on this weekend, you mentioned you're a hitting guy, and you just mentioned great pitching. Liam Peterson has 80 strikeouts in 51 2/3, and he's got his ERA under 4. Attacking that starts with what tonight for the Gamecocks?
Well, the strikeouts are going to come. I say it all the time. I say it to y'all a bunch. You're going to strike out 6 or 7 times. So don't get so wrapped up in those as a hitter. But tonight, we just cannot take the fastball, and we're not going to be able to miss the fastball because he's got so many other pitches he can put in there with us with his all-speed that we have got to be ready tonight. And I know Monty talked to me about it this week. Really be ready to get off multiple swings in the at-bat and see very few takes in that regard to the fastball. You cannot get your swing off when he throws it because after that, it's going to be really hard to hit him with 2 strikes. The 80 strikeouts show that.
Beyond that, 1975, 2010, 2011 being honored. First time Carolina went to the series way back when, 50 years ago, played for a national title. We know what 10 and 11 did. I know it means a lot to you as someone who's worked here in multiple iterations of your career. We know it means a lot to the fans that'll be there. And I'm curious, again, to kind of come around to it, what it's going to mean, hopefully, for a lot of the kids on this current ball club to see and remember and appreciate the levels of success that this program has enjoyed.
Well, I'm excited. I've already, a lot of the 75 players have been here since about 4:30, been dealing with the Lightning. Florida's on the field now taking BP, so we've been cleared to let everybody kind of hang out in the perch area. But I am a fan at heart. And when I get to talk to Coach Bobby Richardson and the guys that were on this, Jeff Grants has helped me so much to really get this team back. And I start looking at that 75 team allowed all of us to get to do what we did as coaches here, the players. I just want the players to see them and see how passionate they still are about this program. Coach Maneri's going to come talk to us about 545. 2 of the guys on the 75 team played for his dad at Miami-Dade, so he's super excited to see them. And I just want to get a little, rub that aura off. We all know what Gamecock baseball is, and right now it's hard. And I know I see it in the faces of the guys. I get to travel with them. I know how hard it's killing them not to be a part of one of those teams. They got 10 games left to make themselves a part of this history, so I hope we really take advantage of those.
Good stuff as always, sir. Enjoy. I'll let you get back to it because I know you got a lot going on in addition to calling the game tonight with Derek. Y'all have a great time. Appreciate you as always, man. We'll talk soon.
Always appreciate y'all. Thank you.
That's Coach Stuart Lake. Stuart Lake is the way to get him on the Twitters. And he and Derek on the call tonight.
Stuart.
That's right. Yeah, it's I've met a lot of those guys from those teams, and I think when I think back, I think of our dear friend Tommy Moody and how he just revered Bobby Richardson, and certainly we all know what Carolina baseball meant to Tommy, but I don't know if that's the the kickstart that these kids need right now, Elijah. I don't know. Look, their baseball shortcomings are there. We can't really do much about that here in May. But, a reminder of what this program is. Maybe, like Stuart said, hey, I want to be a part of that. Well, you got to win a lot of baseball games to do it.
Yeah.
And tonight you quite literally have one of the best pitchers in the United States going up against you. So it's not an easy task, but does something there, again, kind of get you going?
Can it inspire you or does it demoralize you? Because there is something to see all that and be like, wow, we are not that,
Yeah, so we'll see. 7 o'clock tonight, first pitch. Let's see, Saturday, 4 p.m., Sunday afternoon at 1:30. Drive Around the SEC is next.
From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few stop-and-go traffic reports to get to. We do have one accident that just popped up here in the last about 5 minutes. Maybe that accident has 2 lanes blocked on I-20 eastbound, affecting the I-26 exit 64. Now, we do have some stop-and-go traffic that is not accident-related. That's going to be on 20 westbound between Farrow Road at exit 72 and Fairfield Road near exit 70. We also have some stop-and-go traffic, again, not accident-related, on 77 northbound between Fort Jackson Boulevard at exit 10 and Forest Drive at exit 12.
It is Drive Around the SEC time. Welcome back in. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. By the way, at the end of, in fact, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do this real quick.
Let it fly.
Yeah. It's not Carolina baseball, but Sunday, 5 p.m., it's Star Wars night on May the 4th. Get it? May the 4th be with you. Star Wars night at Segra Park. And we can timestamp texts, right?
Yes.
So I want texts 4 and 5.
Oh, perfect.
Now you need to text in the word Fireflies and give us your name
An email
and
address.
an email address.
That's it. That's all we ask for.
All right, but
Not much.
text Fireflies to 803-404-6100.
And you know what I bet is going to be on point on Sunday night, with it being Star Wars night?
Let's have it.
This is my prediction for Sunday.
Swag and the merch. It's fire.
That's how that's going to go down. That is what is going to be going down. The swag and the merch will be fire. You might have to call the fire department. It is going to get out of control.
You just need to provide context every once in a while for folks that understood why I said that. Swag and the merch. It's fire.
No context at all. I don't think any's needed. I think the statement speaks for itself. The swag and the merch is fire. That is a complete sentence. That is not like a sentence fragment. I mean, that has everything you need.
Yeah.
Noun, verb.
So y'all text those in. You get a family 4-pack of tickets, by the way. Sunday, 5 o'clock, Fireflies versus the Crawdads.
I can't wait to consume.
May the
some
4th
crawdads
be
tomorrow.
with you.
Goodness gracious. It's going to be
So
delicious.
type in Fireflies on it. 803-404-6100 on the text line. All right. Let's get to, excuse me. Gosh, so choked up on talking about baseball. Baseball last night. Hey, you remember you asked me the other day, Jay or nay, Texas tying or breaking Vandy's record? And I was like, a lot's going to depend on what they do this weekend in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Well, last night, Arkansas at least held them off for a night. 9-0 winners, Elijah Campbell, were the Razorbacks. 9-0.
Texas in pursuit of the record, getting a little.
They'll do it again tonight. We do have one note as well. Kentucky is at Mississippi State. Or is that State at Kentucky? Hang on. I think it's State at Kentucky. I better double check this. But anyway, they got rained out today, and they'll play a doubleheader tomorrow. I feel like the bad weather's up. But no, it is Kentucky at State. Kentucky at State. Rained out today, doubleheader tomorrow. The rest of the action this weekend, Auburn will visit Tennessee. Tennessee needs to, again, they're fine. They're going to the tournament and all that, but Tennessee's not quite as dominant, losing their last 2 series. LSU will be at A&M, Georgia at Missouri. Ooh, is this the weekend?
No.
No?
No.
Another sweep?
Oh, the brooms will be coming out.
I don't know. This is the wrong weekend as a University of Georgia parent for me to say that it happens. Although I'm not sure she cares to. Actually, you know what? She lives right near Foley Field. So, Ole Miss will be at Oklahoma, Alabama at Vanderbilt, and again the aforementioned Kentucky at Mississippi State doubleheader tomorrow. Carolina and Florida starting up here in just a little bit. One men's basketball note, Elijah Campbell. You might even go up to this. Texas and Duke.
Oh, I'd love to.
Finalizing things that I guess maybe just a few things to work out, but looks like they're going to be playing each other in Charlotte on November 4. That's very early.
That's probably the first weekend of the year.
good for Duke, better for Texas, even if they lose, just because you get to play?
Yeah.
You get to play Duke in the state of North Carolina?
That's good for both schools.
Yeah. Man, Duke's going to be a whole new team next year, aren't they? Everybody's going to be a whole new team next year. Basketball's going to be a whole new team next year.
That recruiting class is loaded. Have a couple boozers playing for him next year.
I know. It's funny because one of the Boozer twins is like number 5, and then his brother's a slouch because he's like number 15.
Just number 15.
You know, isn't that right? Something like that.
Oh yeah. They're two top 20 recruits. One is just like one of the 5 best players in the country. The other one's maybe just one of the 15 best players in the country.
If you can't tell them apart, just go say that the one that's number 5 is actually the one that's number 15, and just see what happens.
Oh, because I guarantee you
go fool some people.
They keep up.
Now the basketball, the baseball this weekend, like Bama, Vandy, top 20 matchup. We talked about Texas and Arkansas. That's a big deal, and now Arkansas has gotten one under their belt. Oklahoma, Ole Miss. There's 2 teams that are kind of fighting for positioning. Auburn and Tennessee is number 10 versus number 12, and Georgia is still in the top 10 this week. So there's a lot to play for. But for the Gamecocks, you heard Stuart Lake say it earlier, and if you missed it, it's on our YouTube page. But that magic number, he said, 13, that Florida got in last year with 13 conference wins, and then Sully's team really got the pitching going in the postseason and made a run all the way to the last 4 in Omaha. I don't know that South Carolina has that kind of pitching that even if they were to get hot, is going to ride them there. But, I don't know.
They'll have to pitch uncharacteristically well.
Yeah, I just don't see it. And again, I mentioned earlier, I'm not trying to put lipstick on a pig or anything like that. But if you ask me today, Jay, do you think South Carolina can make that kind of run and get to the NCAA tournament? No, I don't. Sorry.
You have to bullpen some games. You're going to be playing early enough in that tournament. You have to bullpen some games.
Yeah, and that's what concerns me because I think it would take, even if you could say win 7 of these final 9 conference games, which is 3 this week with Florida, 3 next week at Auburn, 3 to close out with LSU. They're all better than you. Then trying to beat a couple of teams in Hoover and see what happens. I just nothing I've seen so far tells me they can do it. And if you're going to have to do it without Ethan Petrie, who certainly is unavailable this week, that right there is a killer. The one thing, and listen, I am not saying that, hey, there could be addition by subtraction, but, how Paul and Monty want to try to construct the lineup this week without Ethan maybe forces Florida to do just a little bit different stuff with pitching in terms of trying to work around Ethan or what that might look like. And I don't even know if that's something that's really in the offing. Because, again, there's no way you're better without him.
No.
So I don't know. Again, you just look for anything you can to think like, all right, what might be different? What might this do to someone else in our ball club that's in the 3-hole, the 4-hole, whatever? Yeah, I don't know. I look for these things, and the search just by and large comes up kind of empty. I'm looking.
You're trying to find the optimism,
and it's just not there, man.
I mean, I think at this point, a lot of Gamecock fans have been there for a while too. That kind of emotionally punting on this season.
Well, it's just you again, results, especially by now, just speak for themselves. And been a couple of games that have been close, but usually they're not. And you're trying to find that one thing to get it turned around. And like I say,
there's just too many things.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
And look, if tonight with the atmosphere of teams being honored and an opportunity to go up against a great pitcher, and maybe that get you fired up a little bit. I don't know if you can find a way to set the tone tonight. Okay, there you go. I mean, that's all you can do anyway. Mm-hmm. Go win the next one.
Yeah,
but it's just tough right now. Tough to see. But anyway, there you go. That's our drive around the SEC here on this Friday, brought to you by Herndon Chevy. Again, Carolina baseball coming your way in about an hour. Derek and Stewart on the call. 7 o'clock, first pitch from the Ray. I kind of want to revisit our story from earlier in case people missed it.
We have some funny texts.
Good.
On that one as
well.
All
right, well, then we'll share some of those too. But if you missed it,
it's a doozy.
We got one for you. We got one for you. So stick around. This music just seems to fit this next story. Welcome back in. Final few minutes of our Friday program.
I could probably compile a decent list of songs that would accurately reflect the story that you have stumbled upon.
We did this earlier. I see things and I look for kicker stories, we call them, like our end of hour segments. And a lot of times I'll do these at the end of a show. And I'll do as many as I used to. I probably should, but I don't. But this one was just too good, and it's so good actually that this will be twice today. We did it at the end of the 3 as well. But first, the first part of the story is that we congratulate 50-year-old James Farthing of Georgetown, Kentucky. James and his mom play the Powerball together, and they buy tickets. And last weekend, James and his mama won $167 million in the Powerball, y'all.
You know how much fire, swag, and merch you could buy with $167 million?
All of it. Well, at least a good chunk of it. Swag really cool. And the merch. It's fire. That's right. And so what better way to celebrate winning $167 million than by taking your girlfriend, Jacqueline, down to St. Pete Beach?
For a totally normal vacation, a totally normal, trouble-free,
nothing,
happy vacation to celebrate being set for life.
And St. Pete Beach tells me all I need to know about my man James and Jacqueline. But on Tuesday night, after a round or 2 or 5, not sure how many, James and a fellow guest at the Trade Winds Resort on St. Pete Beach got into it. And James punched him in the face. And you're like, oh, no, he went to jail, didn't he? Yeah, but it wasn't for punching the other guest. You see, the Trade Winds called the cops because there was a kerfuffle going on the grounds. And they didn't need that at the Trade Winds. And so James Farthing, 50 years old, Georgetown, Kentucky, who had just won, as I mentioned, $167 million in the Powerball, decided to kick the arresting sheriff's deputy. And that didn't go over well.
Normally it doesn't.
Like, not at all.
This isn't a special case here.
He was charged with felony battery on a law enforcement officer, 2 misdemeanor counts. His bond was set at $11,500. And you say, well, Jay, he's got the money. But wait, kids. You see, there's even more.
Use Billy Mays this with his story.
There's even more to the story. Because James Farthing, who has punched another man in the face and then kicked a law enforcement officer, was out on parole from Kentucky. You can't go kicking a cop anyway, but you're on parole, my man.
You double can't do that.
You are on parole. And here's what he was on parole for, by the way. This was the thing. He was on parole and had been convicted for theft, receiving stolen property, escape, damn, drug trafficking, promoting contraband, tampering with physical evidence, and engaging in an organized criminal syndicate.
Pretty big charges.
And here's another thing. His parole ends in August. He didn't have that much time left.
This is, I erroneously equated this to Deshaun Jackson dropping the ball before going into the end zone. This is like dropping the ball at the 30-yard line and still running into the end zone.
Right, thinking you scored.
All other players in the field are down on the ground. They all trip, and they're all injured. All you have to do is just, you could cartwheel your way into that end zone and drop the ball at the 30-yard line.
In Florida, he was charged with resisting the officer, an obstruction, battery on a law enforcement officer, simple battery, and, again, his parole violation. By the way, his girlfriend, Jacqueline, her last name can't make it up. Just to add even more layers to this story, can't make it up. Jacqueline's last name is Fightmaster.
No one's ever called her Peacemaster.
Fightmaster. Jacqueline Fightmaster. The body cam video showed Farthing winding up his right leg before kicking the arresting deputy, quote, in an attempt to injure or incapacitate him. He reported visible swelling. Ms. Fightmaster was, according to the police report, quote, actively engaging in argument involving other guests and her boyfriend, and attempting to fight other people. The report went on to say she appeared very intoxicated and was yelling, screaming, and making incoherent statements.
Wonder how you drew that conclusion.
I love that she appeared very, because I guess you can't say, well, if you're just doing the report, you didn't do
I mean, you could appear intoxicated. That could also just be how you are.
Yeah, you could be.
And when your last name's Fightmaster, maybe that could pay credence to that being just who you are.
We don't see anything in this report that suggests that that our boy James or his girlfriend or his mama are going to lose their Powerball winnings. So I hope not.
I don't see how, but
But you got a couple of comments. What are people saying that James should have done, or just reacting accordingly?
Well, LaDonna says, you can't make this crap up. Life is way stranger than fiction. # dumb criminals. Agreed. Yeah, I would say this is pretty dumb. We did have one texter say his lawyer just won the lottery.
Yes. Well, that's what Elijah said. Like, hey, buddy, I'm going to need like $5 million to get you out of this.
Yeah, and then I would the price that keeps going up.
Right.
Like, yeah,
you
man,
know what? Maybe $10 million.
These charges look pretty steep. I don't think you want to go to prison. This might have to be $50 million.
Well, that's just it, right? I mean, you violate parole by kicking a policeman, you're going back to jail.
Yeah, for a long time. We had one texter say, I hope the deputy sues him for $167 million.
And you just won $167 million.
Trey suggested he probably stole the Powerball ticket, too.
Oh, my man, James. Good luck, buddy. We're pulling for you. Y'all have a great weekend, and don't go kicking a cop, please.